to the slideshow to show you what's going on. Okay, so we are doing WLANs, which we talked about quite a few times. They're just networks that transmit signals through the air, like RF radio frequency waves. Wired and wireless signals share many similarities, including the use of layer 3 and higher protocols. And the nature of the atmosphere makes wireless transmission different from wired transmissions, obviously. The wireless spectrum is a frequency range of electromagnetic waves used for data and voice communication. So the wireless spectrum spans frequency ranges or bands, they're also called, between 9 kilohertz and 300 gigahertz. Some bands have only a single frequency called a fixed frequency for that particular band. RFID, or radio frequency identification, uses electromagnetic fields to store data on a small chip in an RFID tag, which includes an antenna that can transmit and receive and possibly a battery. RFID are commonly used for inventory management. A lot of times, I mean, they're so small now. There were even RFID implantable devices that you could put under your skin if you wanted to put that information on there. I personally find that uncomfortable. I don't think I would want to do that. Then there are the NFC, or near field communications, and this is kind of like RFID that transfers data wireless over very short distances. The signal can be transmitted one way by an NFC tag or a smart tag, and the NFC tag collects power from smartphones or another device by magnetic induction. And that's what I find fascinating, all the different things you can do with different magnetic induction. Okay, that's just the super basic, and then they're going to go into more detail. So I'm going to show you the really basic video on how Wi-Fi works. Let me know if you can't hear anything. And I think I've already got subtitles turned on this. That's just the super basic. It's probably in the slides, so we will see if they cover that. If not, we will talk about it. Okay, can you see the slideshow okay, everybody?
Yep.
All right, good. All right, so the wireless spectrum. So the wireless spectrum is the frequency range of electromagnetic waves, like he was talking about, used for data and voice communication. This is the one that we just went through. And then this is an example of programmable NFC tags. You can attach them to pretty much anything. You can stick them with like sticky tape and all sorts of things to whatever you're going to. Z-Wave is a smart home protocol that provides two basic types of function. That's signaling to manage wireless connections and control to transmit data and commands between devices. A Z-Wave network controller, called a hub, receives commands from a smartphone or computer and relays the commands to various smart devices on its network. Zigbee is a low-powered, battery-conserving wireless technology, and that's designed to handle small amounts of data. Zigbee is used on IoT, or Internet of Things devices, for purposes such as building automation, HVAC control, AMR, or automatic meter reading, and fleet management. Bluetooth, which we should all know because I'm sure we hear it frequently. Bluetooth technology unites separate entities under a single communication standards. So Bluetooth hops between frequencies within that band to help reduce interference. Most Bluetooth devices require close proximity to form a connection, with the exact distance requirements depending on the class of Bluetooth device. I think they're up to I know it's over 5, but I can't remember exactly what the most current protocol is. ANT plus technology is based on the ANT protocol, which is an ad hoc wireless protocol operating at about 2.4 gigahertz. ANT plus gathers the tracks information from sensors typically embedded in heart rate monitors, GPS devices, and other activity monitoring devices. It can also sync data from multiple devices for the same activity, like smartwatches, smartphones, bicycle, computers, fitness equipment, things like that. IR or infrared technology is used primarily to collect data through various sensors. IR exists just below the spectrum, visible to the human eye. IR sensors are used to collect information like the presence or level of liquid, variations in reflection from skin caused by variations in blood flow, proximity to the device, and commands from a control device. So remote controls use IR sensors in them. All right, and this is just an example showing you the different types across that wireless spectrum. So at the bottom down here, you have your RFID, and then all the way out here at the top, you have your infrared. Do you have any questions on that before we hit channel management? Yay, nay? Okay. Nope, to the nope. Gotcha. Most wireless devices implement one of two technologies, FHSS or frequency hopping spread spectrum, or DSSS, direct sequence spread spectrum. Now I have a good history fact on this. Do you know who originally was responsible for the technology that created frequency hopping spectrum spread? Historically, it was created during World War II. Anybody?
Was it Germans?
Nope. It's Hedy Lamarr. She was a famous actress, and they didn't really release that information for a long time. She came up with the idea, and then the Navy, I think, was the one that took the idea and ran with it. And it was how they got around the German communications. They used the frequency hopping spread spectrum in order to get around them intercepting communications. So that's where that originally came from. I just thought it was really interesting historical fact. How each wireless standard, there's actually a really interesting documentary on her. I think it's on Netflix. If you ever want more information on her, she was a very interesting lady. How each wireless standard in the 2.4 gigahertz range uses its allotted band. So Wi-Fi uses DSSS, Bluetooth uses FHSS, which I'm sure you probably figured out when I was talking about it, and it said right in there that it hopped. And then Zigbee uses DSSS. Yeah, when I found out how they obtained it, all she wanted, I don't think she even wanted money. She just wanted credit for creating it, and didn't really get it until after she died. So it was really, really kind of sad. Antennas. Wireless signals originate from electrical current traveling along a conductor. The electrical signal travels from transmitter to an antenna, which then emits the signal as a series of electromagnetic waves into the atmosphere. At the destination, another antenna accepts the signal, and a receiver converts it back to current. Two antennas must be tuned to the same frequency in order to use the same channel. An antenna's radiation pattern describes the relative strength over a three-dimensional area of all electromagnetic energy that antenna sends or receives. Directional or unidirectional antenna issue wireless signals along a single direction. So just remember, directional / unidirectional, one way. Omnidirectional antenna issue and receive wireless signals with equal strength clarity in all direction. So omnidirectional, all over the place. The geographical area that an antenna can reach is known as its range. Okay, signal propagation. So propagation refers to the way in which a wave travels from one point to another. Now that you're going to need to remember because it's brought up frequently if you're talking about Wi-Fi signal propagation. So just remember what it is. LOS, or line of sight, occurs when the signal travels in a straight line directly from transmitter to receiver. Wireless signals do not usually follow a straight line, like they were showing how it goes out in a circle and then they kind of bounce around when they hit things. When obstacles are in the signal's way, the signal might pass through depending on the density, and it might be absorbed by the object. Attenuation: the farther the signal moves away from the transmission source, the more it weakens. So wireless signals can be amplified by increasing the power of the transmission or extended by repeating the signal from a closer broadcast point called a wireless range extender. You can see those like all over Amazon and different places. Like if you have your router in one section of your house and you just can't get signal on the other side, you can get an extender and it boosts that signal. Fading is a signal runs into objects, its energy will gradually fade because, you know, as it hits those objects, it just dissipates. Excessive fading can cause dropped connections or slow data transmission. Interference: electromagnetic waves can interfere with wireless communications. Wireless signals are more vulnerable to noise. So signal to noise ratio, or SNR, is the proportion of noise to the strength of a signal. Yeah, sorry about the comms school flashbacks there. Next, there's refraction. As the wave travels through objects, the wave's direction, speed, and wavelength are altered or refracted. Reflection: the wave encounters an obstacle and reflects or bounces back towards the source. Scattering: when a wireless signal encounters an object that has a small surface dimensions compared with the signal's wavelength, it's diffused or scattered in multiple directions. Diffraction: a wireless signal is diffracted or split into secondary waves when it encounters an obstruction, and wireless signals follow different paths to destinations known as multipath signals. That is actually a really cool fact. The one that was just brought up in chat, we often reflect radar off the ionosphere to get over the horizon targeting. That's an excellent example of wireless type signals and how you can bounce them around. Okay, so this is an example of multipath signal propagation. And you can see there's your access point right there in the middle. It's showing scattering as you hit a plant, diffraction with your table, your walls, and then reflection as it goes up and around. Okay, 802.11 standard. So WLANs work on the OSI layers 1 and 2. They support TCP/IP higher layer OSI protocols and operating systems. The most popular standards used are referred to as Wi-Fi or wireless fidelity, notable Wi-Fi standards. And if you ever want to know these letter things, you can go out and read them if you want to, but it's a good way to put yourself to sleep. Those you need to know when you're looking at purchasing equipment, because different standards and different equipment, like for example, my router is my old router, I'd have to go look up the new one for my fiber, was an AC So it was 802.11 AC compatible. And now they've got AX. And so, you know, as they go, you just need to make sure that everything keeps up to whatever standard you're using. For example, certain standards, the lower standards didn't support the 5 gigahertz. They just had the 2.4 gigahertz. So they didn't support like the dual band. They didn't as you went up. So that's why you'll see a huge difference between different wireless standards and whatever it is you're working on. So just be aware of those and that you can look those up because they are written kind of like legal documents. So just be aware that they're there and that you need to match your network equipment to them. Yes, my buddy. Okay. Innovations of the 802.11 standards. Several innovations have been implemented that contributed to making the later standards faster and more reliable. So channel bonding, 2 adjacent 20 megahertz channels can be bonded to make a 40 megahertz channel. And that more than doubles the bandwidth available in a single 20 megahertz channel. Then there's MIMO, or multiple input, multiple output access points, and client device antennas may issue signals to one or more receivers. MIMO increases the range and a network's throughput. MIMO, I have a hard time saying these without laughing, is multi-user MIMO, a new user technology that allows multiple antennas to service multiple clients simultaneously. And that helps when you have something go down. It allows you to kind of overlap and pick up the slack when something goes down so that you can replace that piece without having as much noticing downtime and things like that for your end users. So the new technology reduces congestion and contributes to faster data transmission, and it's available with Wave 2, the 802.11 AC products. Several innovations, more innovations. Here we go. OFDMA, orthogonal frequency division, multiple access. This one supports more efficient multi-user functionality for the new AX devices. Then there's frame aggregation, which combines multiple frames into one large frame. Networks can use one of 2 techniques for combining these. The AMSDU, which is the aggregated MAC service data unit, or AMPDU, which is aggregated MAC protocol data unit. And this is an example of MSDU and MPDU. MSDU is on the top, and you can see it's got payload 1, 2, and 3, and MPDU has, you can see how it breaks it up slightly differently on the bottom. Access method. So 802.11 MAC services append 48-bit physical addresses to frame to identify source and destination. The use of the same physical addressing scheme as other Ethernet networks allows easy combination with IEEE networks or IEEE networks. Wireless devices are not designed to simultaneously transmit and receive. 802.11 standards specify the use of CSMA CA, or carrier sense multiple access with collision avoidance procedures to access a shared medium, uses ACK packets or acknowledge packets to verify every transmission, and requires more overhead than 802.3. RTS CTS, which is request to send, clear to send protocol, ensures packets are not inhibited by other transmissions. RTS CTS decreases network efficiency, but it can be efficient for large transmission packets. Okay, so here is a figure of CSMA-CA using ACK. So it checks for transmission, detects activity. Okay, it's activity, so it pauses, loops back around, checks for activity. Okay, no activity, sends transmission, transmission complete. This is just basically how it works. Are you okay, Kitty? Sorry, one of my cats just sneezed really loudly. Association and wireless topologies. Association is the process where packets are exchanged between computer and an access point in order to gain internet access. Scanning occurs when a wireless device surveys its surroundings for an access point. In active scanning, the wireless client takes the initiative by transmitting a special frame known as a probe. In passive scanning, the AP takes the initiative. The wireless device listens for special signal known as a beacon frame. SSID, or service set identifier, is a unique character string identifying an access point. The SSID is contained in the beacon frame information. The SSID is configured in the AP's configuration utility, and it is recommended that it be changed from the default settings. Yes, I know. I mean, even when I look at the signals around me, there's still some people using default SSIDs. I cannot stress that enough. Do not use default anything when it comes to that, because all of that can be used and looked up on the internet. Okay, IEEE terms that reflect the most common wireless topologies include the following. There are a ton of them. These are just the most common. So IBSS, Independent Basic Service Set, using an ad hoc topology, a small number of nodes closely positioned transmit directly to each other without an intervening connectivity device. BSS, Basic Service Set, using an infrastructure topology, a group of stations share an access point. The identifier for this group of nodes is known as the BSSID, or Basic Service Set Identifier. ESS, Extended Service Set. This is using a mesh topology. And when this came out, I thought it was really cool, and I'll explain why in a minute. This is several access points connected to the same LAN network. These APs are configured to manage and managed by a wireless LAN controller. Clients that belong to the same ESS share a special identifier called an ESSID, or Extended Service Set Identifier. The ESSID allows users to roam or change from AP to AP. Okay, mesh topologies I find very fascinating because I've seen some amazing use cases for them. Basically, you take multiple APs and they are positioned in a mesh so that you have, I think of it like a fishing net kind of, and that's how they kind of cover an area. And there have been projects in rural areas where they mount these mesh routers up on poles in different areas so that they can use them as emergency connectivity devices for all sorts of things, from like weather, and one of them was doing geological surveys for like earthquakes and things like that for transmitting, and they used the mesh topology in order to transmit all of their data, so that if one went down, they could go, oh, okay, we have a problem here, but they could pick up the signal, and then they could get their data transmitted faster and allow for there to be faster emergency response. I just thought it was a really neat use case for it. Yeah, so like a spider web. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just really, the use of the mesh technology and the different ways that they can use it. I mean, if you're interested at all, go out and look at some of the use cases for it. It's crazy, some of the cool things people have done with it. Okay, so this is a network with the BSS forms an ESS, and you can move one room to the next without losing your network connectivity. Okay, so 802.11 frames. This specifies a MAC sublayer frame type. The frames are divided into 3 groups: management frames, associated and reassociation control frames, medium access and data delivery. Example of control frames include AC, RTS, and CTS frames. And then data frames carry data sent between stations. Okay, so here's your data frame and your Ethernet 2 frame, and it's just showing you the data frame compared to an 802.3 frame. Hey, knowledge check. I know I threw a ton of stuff at you. So which type of identifier allows wireless clients to roam freely from AP to AP? BSSID, IP address, ESSID, transmitter address. Best guess. AC, CCA. Looks like we're split. Okay, let's see what we got here. Looks like ESSID. And don't feel bad because then, you know, they're really, really close together on the terms. So extended service set, just remember that part. That's what helped me, was extended service was what clicked in my head when I was remembering it. Okay. Implementing Wi-Fi networks. Now, before I start this, I have a story on what happens when you incorrectly implement Wi-Fi networks. Oh, sorry, so I was just checking to see if there were any questions. So where I previously worked years before I got there, instead of doing a proper wireless survey, do you guys know what a wireless survey is, first of all? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so there's one person that says yes. Does everyone else know? Is there anybody that doesn't know and needs me to explain what a wireless survey is? Okay, I think we're good. Basically, that's what it is. It's you go around and you check to make sure that where you're positioning the wireless access points, you're going to have everything covered. That's the whole basic thing of it. You just check to make sure you're not going to have any weird signal problems. When they initially deployed Wi-Fi, they did not do any of that. They just kind of were like, oh, we're going to take this and go here. So yeah, so many problems, and had to go back and do it the right way when we finally got the okay to do upgrade to like the new dual band Wi-Fi routers and everything else. And you would not believe the amount of stuff that we had to move around. When you're working with old buildings, you really have to be careful when you do those, because a lot of times your Wi-Fi signals you're dealing with, a lot of the school buildings are made out of brick. But some of them have weird things in the walls like chicken wire, or they're made with really, really, really thick concrete, or, you know, they'll just mess up your wireless signals. So always make sure that you do the prep work if you want everything to go the way it's supposed to. So otherwise, you're just going to end up having to. Oh, what were you asking?
I was going to say that a lot of the buildings that the Army uses on post, if they're not, or on any of the posts, if they're not brand new, are old cavalry buildings and old brick
Repurposed
stables and stuff like that. And it is a nightmare in those buildings trying to do anything.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we ran into, because most of the schools, like especially our elementary schools, were really old. I think I won't say really old, but I think the newest one we have was built in like the 60s. And we have some that were like Pocatello High School was built in the 1800s. originally, and then just kind of things were just kind of slapped on and added, and it has bomb shelters up underneath it, and you never know what you're going to find when you're doing networking stuff. And so we had all sorts of weird materials that our Wi-Fi signals were running into, and we were just having all sorts of problems. So we'd have problems like and some of them, they put them too close together. So the device would be like, do I go to this one? Do we go to this one? Do we go to this one? You know, or they would just have huge like gaps where there's just no signal right here, because they did not account for the fact that there was a big old wall made out of solid bricks and concrete with metal going through, rebar going through it. You know, it was a mess. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay. So determine the design. So for home or small office networks, or SOHO networks, I still cannot get used to that term. Every time I hear it, I think of different neighborhoods, but it might call for only one access point. The AP device often combines switching, routing, and other network functions, connects to wireless clients and the LAN, and acts as an internet gateway. Many home or office networks include your IoT, Internet of Things devices. And then examples of those are like your health monitors, exercise equipment, GPS locators, smartwatches, anything with smart or security cameras in front of it is an IoT device. You need to consider the following when you're looking at installing: distance, type and number of obstacles, like we were talking about, coverage, interference. So one thing you need to think about when you're doing coverage, you need to very carefully look at your wireless AP's range. So if you buy a cheaper one, chances are you might have a smaller range and you may end up needing more than one. Whereas if you spend a little bit more money, you might get a larger range and end up only having to buy one device. So that's something to think about. Larger WLANs warrant a more systematic approach to access point placement. You really have to know, it's almost like working with a mesh topology, but not quite. You really have to know where you're going to map those out. And you really need to create maps, like physical maps, so that you know where to find everything. And site surveys assess client requirements, facility characteristics, and coverage areas. So you really need to do a thorough site survey. I cannot stress that enough. Yeah, Max. Yeah, there's it's that whole certain words that mean multiple things. Yeah. So there's some more site survey things that you can look at. Look at your building blueprints to look at possible obstacles. One thing that you might want to look at too is if you have any wiring diagrams, you might be able to look at, where those go. Consider whether Wi-Fi access points will be used as wireless bridges to create remote wired access to the network. Determine whether certain floors require multiple APs. Measure the signal coverage and strengths from other WLANs. Test proposed access point locations. Test wireless access from the farthest corners of your space. It's always good to do a, worst case scenario, farthest out test, just in case. Hello, kitty. Consider the materials used in objects that aren't always present in the environment. Consider how the wireless portions of the LAN will integrate with the wired portions. Okay, so here's your WAP here, the different, showing the different enterprise scale, how it goes through, and how it might be accessed, like with a cell phone or a laptop or a tablet. You never know what devices they're going to be using. APs vary in which wireless standards they support, antenna strength, and other features. Variables set during installation include administrator passwords, SSID, and whether or not the SSID is broadcast, security options, and whether or not DHCP is used. If something goes awry during your Soho router configuration, you can force a reset of all the variables you changed. Configuration varies from one client to another. As long as an AP is broadcasting its SSID, clients in its vicinity will detect it and offer the user the option to associate with it. Onboarding, you'll see this a lot in enterprise environments. This involves installing a specific program or app onto a device to give it trusted access to certain portions of the network. Offboarding involves removing programs that gave devices special permission on the network. Administrators need a feature that allows them to offboard remotely in case an AP is lost or stolen. Basically, it's a remote wipe. And I cannot stress the amount of work that you have to do if you do not properly onboard or offboard if you're going to be doing that. I kind of, in my opinion, building a proper offboarding sequence is really important, because if you don't, and something gets removed or stolen, or for example, you happen to have an insider threat situation and you don't get them removed from your network via offboarding, can cause all sorts of problems. Whereas if you'd had that done correctly, yeah, no, that one's definitely not a step that we have in here. But if you do those correctly, you should have a lot less stress on your net admins. So the 802.11 standard offers no security by default. Authentication allows a client to log on to the network either by providing the correct password for the SSID or providing user credential processed by an authentication server. MAC filtering prevents the AP from authenticating any device whose MAC address is not listed. Encryption algorithms scramble data into a format that cannot easily be interpreted if the signal is intercepted. Okay, WPA Wi-Fi protected access dynamically assigns every transmission its own key. 802.11i incorporates an encryption key generation and management scheme known as TKIP, or Temporal Key Integration Protocol, to improve security for legacy, read old, web-based devices. TKIP accomplishes the following improvements: message integrity, key distribution, and encryption. WPA2, if you are not using this, change to it, because if you're just using WPA, then that's an old one and it can be broken through a lot easier. Uses stronger data confidentiality methods, CCMP, which is short for counter mode with CBC or cipher block chaining, MAC message authentication code protocol, helps ensure data confidentiality with both encryption and packet authentication by providing the following. So it has message integrity. It ensures your incoming packets are coming from their declared source, and encryption. So AES, or Advanced Encryption Standard, which provides faster and more secure encryption than TKIP. AES is kind of that one's the current industry standard. And then there's AES 256 is usually where you see things. There is an AES 512, which is really where they should be, but a lot of the products use, if you at least use 256, it is better, but just be aware AES should be the most recent one. And then, you know, they have competitions where people come up with these crazy algorithms, and usually you'll see the different algorithms that are named after like the last names of the people that make them. And so it's really interesting how they come up with the different algorithms. Personal and enterprise. The most secure communication is made possible by combining Radius server with WPA/WPA2. known as the WPA Enterprise or WPA2 Enterprise. Can you guys hear that cat? Is that bugging you? Okay, she's just yelling her head off in the other room, and I wasn't sure if it was bugging you guys. Okay. I don't know why she's doing it, but she's just decided to give us our own concert this evening. Radius or Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service is an open source authentication and authorization service. Way too much cat help this evening, sorry. A Radius server is used to cooperation with an authentication mechanism called EAP. EAP is Extensible Authentication Protocol, which provides the framework for authenticating clients and servers. EAP functions alongside Radius by organizing communications with the network client devices, while Radius handles actual authentication on the server. Okay, so EAP messages are encapsulated in a Radius message, and that is how they are encrypted. You'll see. Other security configurations. So there are additional options like AP and antenna placement, geofencing, guest networks, which I personally hate, but sometimes they're you do need them. Wireless client isolation, captive portals, and IoT access considerations. Have any of you talked much about Internet of Things or IoT access stuff? I do go over that more extensively later in one of my other classes, but I do think it's important that people know about it. So are you guys well informed about the Internet of Things and why that's a problem with security? Just a little bit. Okay, so the Internet of Things includes basically anything that can connect to the internet. So it can be a smart thermostat, a smart fridge, anything from that all the way up to industrial controllers, which they can use on big machines. It is insane the amount of stuff that they've got. The biggest problem is a lot of the IoT devices were not made with the like IT person, security people in mind. It was built by people who were just trying to sell. It was my marketing people, and so they were built to be shot out as quickly as possible and replaced quickly by the buyers, which is a bad combination for security. Basically, most of them you run into, there's a few of them that have the set it and forget it, which means that you have the same username and password always. Some of them are actually baked into the hardware, so you can't change it. Some of them you cannot ever update, which means you know how fast things are obsolete. And they are a nightmare if you're doing any sort of security. They were one of the big things that I had to fight with people over, like smart speakers and things like that. I was like, no. You cannot put these in the classroom. There's legal reasons, but also they are an excellent pivot point for people to get into the network. You hit your IoT device and then you pivot and you hit other devices. And that is exactly what happens because they are the weakest link as far as a lot of devices are concerned, because they don't get updated. Their firmware doesn't frequently get patched. A lot of times you can just go out on the internet and look up the username and passwords for them. It's insane. Question?
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone knew if Shodan was still up.
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is fantastic. I actually go through that in one of my certified ethical hacker classes in year 2. It was recently used. I can't remember what the attack was, but they recently used it when we're using it against, oh, that's what it was. There was a Chinese manufacturer that was not patching their cameras. And there was like several 100,000 of them that were being hit using Shodan. And then the information was being sold on the dark web for those cameras. Yeah, Shodan is a fantastic example of why you need to change your settings, because you can use Shodan and you can go out and you can search for it and you can be like, okay, I can look at anyone's camera and boom, there you go. It's crazy. But yeah, so IoT it's really neat in a lot of aspects, but as far as security goes, it can also be a pain in the butt. So be aware of that. Okay, security threats to Wi-Fi networks. War driving. This happens a lot. A hacker searches for unprotected wireless networks by driving around with a laptop configured to receive and capture wireless data transmissions. War chalking. Hackers draw symbols with chalk on a sidewalk or a wall near a vulnerable AP to make it known to other hackers. Evil twin. A rogue AP planted in a network's geological area to pose as an authorized AP. WPA attack involves an interception of the network keys communicated between stations and APs, also called WPA cracking. WPS attack involves cracking a PIN in order to access the AP settings. The PIN can easily be cracked through a brute force attack. Yeah, chalking, you're not going to see much of that around here. In a bigger city, maybe. But not too much around here. War driving, yes. My original IT mentor used to do that just to see what he could see. So evil twin attacks they're actually, I've seen them a couple of times just in the places that I've worked. Usually it's just people trying to see what they can do, but you never know. Wi-Fi network tools. Okay, 2 types of software tools you should have. Your spectrum analyzer. This is a device that can assess the quality of the wireless signal. Wireless analyzer or Wi-Fi analyzer. Software that can help evaluate Wi-Fi network availability, optimize Wi-Fi signal settings, and help Wi-Fi security threats. List of capabilities common to wireless testing tools. Now, usually if you're doing a site survey, like when they did the site survey, they had a laptop and an antenna, and they had a special suite with all of this stuff in it. I don't remember which one exactly they used, but it had all these tools in there, and they just took it around to do this. Okay, so identify transmitting access points, stations, and channels. Measure your signal strength. Indicate the effects of attenuation, signal loss, and noise, which is really important when you're doing any sort of mapping. Interpret signal strength information. Ensure proper association and reassociation between APs. Capture and interpret traffic. Measure throughput and assess data transmission errors. And analyze characteristics of each channel. The following lists some wireless configuration pitfalls to avoid. No connection when you can't get Wi-Fi client to connect to the IP. Wrong SSID. Sometimes you'll see people deliberately type the wrong thing in order to trick people, like in the rogue AP ones. Encryption protocol mismatches, incorrect passphrases. Static channel utilization, mismatched RF band, mismatched standards, long AP association time. Usually these all come down to they were just improperly configured. Slow connections. So usually it's insufficient. These are just possibilities. Insufficient wireless cover, RF attenuation, signal loss, interference. Those top 4 channel overlap are the ones that I saw the most. Wireless standard specifications, simultaneously wired and wireless connections, problems with firmware updates, incorrect antenna type, mismatched antenna polarization, client saturation or over capacity. I saw that one a lot too, and client disassociation issues. So client saturation and overcapacity, that's what happens when you have too many people and not enough APs, basically. And that's when you have not, that's also what happens when you poorly check out your everything beforehand when you're doing it, and try to, a lot of times, usually they try to cheap it and use lower end APs and end up having to upgrade anyway, because they only handle like a couple hundred people, or a couple, 20 to 30 or whatever, and then you end up getting way more clients than you realized, and you have all sorts of problems. I actually have surveillance van something or other as my SSID, which I'm surprised none of my neighbors have yelled at me for. I actually have one that works for the FBI next to me, so. Knowledge check activity. Which device will let you determine all frequencies within a scanned range that are present in a specific environment, not just Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi analyzer, captive portal, wireless LAN controller, or a spectrum analyzer. Good job. All right, so those are all the things that you should be able to do. Are there any questions? I think rather than making you sit through a 20-minute video with me, I'm going to give you guys the link so you can watch it on your own time. But I highly recommend it. It's How Wi-Fi Works video. I'm going to go put it out in the Discord. And it is really, really good. They do have several other ones on different things like Wi-Fi attacks and really cool stuff. So I love this channel and I recommend their stuff. Spring break is next week. Yes, you are correct. I do not assign work on spring break because I think it's just mean, and I always hated instructors that did that. So it's kind of like I don't expect you to have to do anything. If you want to take extra time to work on your assignments and stuff during that week, good on you. But the week after that is finals prep. So we will go through that this week, and I will go through yeah, exactly. So you guys kind of get an extra week for studying if in this one. So it's technically you get a 5-week and a 6-week time frame. So it's kind of nice. But yeah, I'm not going to give you anything extra. So all the stuff that we go over this week is the last of the material. And then we will just go through what you guys need from there. Yes, of course you do. Sorry, cat claw stuck in my arm. I want you guys to be able to do that over the break, but it's not going to be like a certification exam because we're spreading the Cisco and the 2 different courses over 2 courses. So it's just going to be kind of like your written weekly tests that you guys have through Blackboard. It's just going to be a combination of the material that you have in those. So that's what it's going to look like. And I will go out and look through and see if I can just make you like some flashcards or something and get those to you by the end of the week. Yeah, it is. I'm trying to make it just like the tests that you guys have been taking over the last couple of weeks, so that it's not stressful like the first. There's not very many of them that are going to be certification exams for this class, so you don't have to pull your hair out. And also I wanted to talk to you guys about anyone that needs to do a retake. I would like to do the retakes somewhere in, I was thinking the 2nd week of our next class, if that works with people. I don't want to do it towards the end of this one because I want you guys to focus on your final. And I figure the first week everyone's like, with new material. But second week, sometime in there, I want to schedule that for the retake for anyone that needs to do the retake. So if that works well with people's schedules, I'm going to go ahead and we'll work out some times for some retakes for people. And remember, it's free. So if you need to retake it, don't freak out. They had a bunch of vouchers. So the retakes are free. And I will get everyone in and on for that needs to do it. So we will get some videos out there on Discord for you for some extra Wi-Fi work. Go out and read your stuff in Cisco and read your Cengage stuff. And if you have any issues with any of the labs or anything, hit me up. If you want to stick around, if you have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, take off, go study, and have a good rest of your night. See you guys.